Let us grow old triumphantly. There is no reason to dread the passage of time, as is or should be the rich and happy fulfillment of life, the shining consummation of all that has gone before. Don't be ashamed of your grey hair, wrote William Lyon when he himself was 62. Wear it proudly like a flag, grow old triumphantly. With age come wisdom and understanding. With age come many joys and compensations. Each part of life has its own abundant harvest to be garnered in season. Set zero, old age is rich in blessings. I repeat this word, old age is rich in blessings. All through the history, we find convincing proof that mental powers increase with the age, that artistic and intellectual powers are often intensified in latter years. Michelangelo was still producing masterpieces at 89. Goethe completed the second part of Faust when he was 82. Wagner finished Parsifal at 69. And Voltaire wrote Candide at 65. Handel was still composing beautiful music. Longfellow was still writing immortal poetry in his latter ages. After 70, some of the greatest tasks ever undertaken by men were begun and carried through in what are called life's declining years. But never there is decline for our intellect, for our thinking, for our sharpness, and it depends on the perception of our life. In fact, life begins at 40. Walter Pitkin points out that 9/10 of the world's best work has been done by older people well past their prime. To know how to grow old is a masterwork. It is an art of wisdom. It is a skill to know the reality of life. And one of the most difficult chapters in the great art of living, wrote Emile in his famous journal. This is truer today than it has ever been, with the lifespan lengthened and the opportunities for older people greater than ever before in history, either for reading, analyzing, thinking, participating in good discussions with the colleagues, and Sat Sangatyam. You can have a good discussion, good debate without any malice or prejudice along with your colleagues, and you can lead your life with all lamps fully awakened in your brain and run the life. Following are some of the world's most famous quotations on old age and contentment and security in latter years. Marcus Cicero was one of the greatest orators and statesmen of Rome. In that seething period of moral laxity and political corruption that was climaxed by the murder of Julius Caesar. Cicero was born in 106 BC and began his public career when he was still little more than a youth. At 25, he was already well known as an orator. Even after retirement, he continued his eloquent voice was never stilled. He turned to literature and philosophy in his final phase of his career, writing down the ideas and observations of lifetime's fruitful experience. It was during this period that he produced some of his most enduring works. Among them, several important works are there. An essay on Praise of Old Age and its many blessings. It was written as a dialogue, a favorite form of literary expression in those days. The dialogue supposedly took place in 150 BC. The aging censor, as one of the interlocutors, the following selections adapted from several important works on stimulating philosophy of the old age. It is a boon. It is a necessity. Every human will enter into that phase, and every phase of life has to be enjoyed. When in 84th year, as you see, old age has not quite enfeebled me. or broken me down. The Senate House does not miss my strength, nor the rostra, nor my friends, nor my clients, nor my guests, for I have never agreed to that old and much praised proverb which advises you to become an old man early if you wish to be an old man long. I, for my part, would rather be an old man for a shorter length of time than be an old man before I was one. Life's race course is fixed. Nature has only a single path, and that path is run. But once and to each stage of existence has been allotted its own appropriate quality, so that the weakness of childhood, the impetuosity of youth, the seriousness of middle life, the maturity of old age, each bears some of nature's fruit, which must be garnered in its own season. Each has something which ought to be enjoyed in its own time. I suppose that you hear what your grandfather's host, what he was telling, what he preached, what he practiced, what was the quintessence of his experience. You can recollect, that can remind you how you have to live in your old age. Exercise, therefore, and temperance, even in old age, can preserve some remnant of your pristine vigor. We must make a stand against old age, and its faults must be atoned for by activity. We must fight as it were against disease, and in like manner against old age. Regard must be paid to health, moderate exercise must be adopted, so much of meat and drink must be taken that the strength may be recruited, not oppressed, nor indeed must the body alone be supported, but the mind and soul much more. Here the role played by the mind and soul are very important, that everybody has to tenderly, nicely, smoothly garner these two, that is mind and soul. For these also, unless you drop oil on them as on lamp, are extinguished by old age. Our minds are rendered buoyant by exercise. As I like young man in whom the something of the old, as I like in an old man in whom there is something, this something has to be. This something has to be analyzed. This something has to be taken into consideration with a serious note of leading life at any stage of life with all vigor. And we have to win the race. Let us be prepared to win the race. Whether we win in the game or not, definitely we will participate in the game with all vigor and mightiness of the heart content. That is what is required for the old days. By the time a man is 60, he should be well enough acquainted with himself to know that he can and cannot do, what he can do and what he cannot do. He should know the varieties of self-expression which bring him the most happiness, and should have attained some little skill in them. He should have a pretty good knowledge of how much he can expect of his body and of what his mental and spiritual capacities are. This is the crux of performing a yajna, leading life in a very methodical and spiritual way in our old age. The three watchwords for the happiness hunter, I repeat, the three words for a happiness hunter: self-recognition, self-direction, and self-expression. It is the last that is most important. For the graying years, the others also have their place in the 60s and 70s, but in not such a prominent place as before. Self-expression is the field to cultivate for latter happiness. Then a man or a woman has more to express. Life begins at 40, yes, and it begins 60 at times, and even later, when all seems disappointing, and a review of one's life reveals no one greater than you. You are great in your own way. You have achieved in your own way what you can do, what your body has permitted, what your mind has permitted. You must know your limitations and evaluate your happiness, your way in which you have achieved. Be happy with what you achieved. Never bother about failures. Never think about the failures. Failures are common, not only to you, but the entire human beings in the entire universe. Then a man or a woman has more to express when they realize these things. Many may discover some neglected element which, when brought out into its proper place, may transform his life. Some desire he had in boyhood which got buried because of other interests, many suddenly appear again. It may prove to have been his true bent, his real calling, and even the man of 60, perhaps especially the man of 60, ripened and strengthened by life experience, may take this boyhood ambition and in surprisingly short time find himself doing more with the thing than he could have as a boy. The technique of happiness, the craft of happiness, the art of happiness for the elderly person is somewhat different from for the youthful. But too much has been made of the difference between youth and old age. The human personality changes through the years. It is true, and it is strangely remains the same. We have many second chances in life, sometimes even 10th chances. Let no man give up. Let no man give up hope till the last breath of is dawn. Let us retire. Let us enjoy the old days and let us grow old triumphantly. Thank you very much.